Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. This is part 3 in a 4-part series of all real-time videos. That is to say, videos that have no time-lapse in them at all. Now, in part 1, a couple of weeks back, I did the pencil version. Last week, I did the inks. And this week we're going to be doing markers. Now, I was just about to erase all of the pencil lines, but I thought, no, that is not true to the spirit of this all real-time project. They need to see every step in the process real-time. So I held off until now to finally erase. And aren't you glad? The exciting drama of seeing me erase. This is a kneaded eraser that you can get at art stores. It's nice because it doesn't produce those little pink specks of dust, I guess you would call them, that come from most traditional erasers. It just sort of sucks up all the pencil lines into itself, basically, and eventually it gets so dirty you have to just throw it away. But it is a useful tool, although not very precise. And very often when I need to do very careful erasing, I will go back to the tip of the pencil eraser so that I can erase very carefully. I'm going to try to do almost all of the coloring with markers, which is different from what I did last time when I did this all real-time, no time-lapse challenge. I did watercolor. This time we're going to do markers, and I am going to start with the kind of leader, I would say, of the art marker industry. Although this is not what I was about to say, Copic. This looks like a Copic, but it's not actually a Copic. This is the Touch by Shinhan Art. Sorry about that. I was about to say I'm using a Copic for once, but I'm not. It turns out I'm using the Touch. In any case, there's a little free advertising for Copic, or should I say Copic? That probably needs no advertising. I find that people love their markers. It almost has become a word for marker, that people just assume that you're using Copics. I think it is Copic, right? I don't know. In any case, I am using a very pale flesh tone here for getting a base layer, and I am going to have a second marker, which is a Latracet marker that I'm going to pull out probably later on for kind of adding shading, so that this skin area doesn't look so flat. I think most of these areas probably require two colors, one as the base color, and then a second to be this sort of shade color. Now I'm trying to add in a little extra darkness just by going in a second time, and sometimes, it depends on the marker, sometimes you can achieve quite a difference in coloring just by going back in. But with markers, and also watercolors, I think there's always this matter of the drying time. As it dries, the color changes in subtle but pretty important ways, and so you're always sort of like, that's it, I've got the perfect color, and then it dries and you're like, oh no, it's not exactly, it's sort of more washed out than what I wanted. And then you try to go in and try to darken it in yet again, and it dries again. You spend the rest of your life trying desperately to get that color right. Anyway, I think I'm done with that part of the inking process. I'm going to move on to, well, let's do his shirt, and I'm going to use a light blue. Generally speaking, I like to start with light colors and work towards dark colors. Light colors are more sort of forgiving. If they go across the line later on, you can cover up that mistake you made with the darker marker. Darker marker. Good name for a band, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, you can't do that the other way. If you start with the dark marker and you go over the line, you're sort of stuck with that excess coloring. And I suppose I could say a thing or two about color choice. I don't like super bright colors. It's just personal taste. So that's why you're not going to see like fire engine red or some bright green or something. I'm always trying to, my preference is really towards muted colors. I think color is very much a subjective thing. Probably all aspects of art are, but I feel like color especially is. Different people gravitate towards different color schemes. I have always been a big fan of muted colors. Of course, you can be even more... Oh, what am I doing? I'm moving on to... I'm going to switch. I'm sorry. I don't want him to be wearing a jumpsuit. Let me switch to a different shade of blue here for his jeans. And again, just here's my theory in action, that the darker color can indeed cover up the lighter color. Now, this is quite a dark shade of blue, and some people might be like, what are you doing? All those inked lines that you did last week, you are obliterating them. And I kind of am, but as I said before, this is going to lighten up a bit as it dries. But yeah, it will. It is covering up those lines to a certain extent. And generally speaking, I don't like to use a super dark marker that, as I said, like completely obliterates the inking that I did. This one, I think, as it dries, will allow the lines, the inked lines, to remain fairly visible. Fingers crossed. Soon we will see how wrong I was. The direction that you go with your marker is, of course, important because it does sort of leave streaks. I'm trying to go across so as to sort of suggest the form of his leg here, although I don't think I did that with the other leg. Such marvelous instruction you're getting here today. And in fact, I'm going to kind of abandon that approach right now with this other side. And just try to go in here. Markers are tricky. I don't pretend to be an expert in using markers. I don't pretend to be an expert in anything, really, but there is that matter of the streaks that are left behind. Now you can see me sort of trying to build up shading to create a secondary darker area down here. This marker may be one of those ones that creates a more dramatic duotone or, two-color effect when you go on it a second time. Again, you always have to wait for the drying process to see what the final color is going to end up being. Okay, enough of that. Well, I guess I'll color this in. Let's move on to a kind of ochre-ish shade of brown. People may notice that I keep using the wide end of the marker. Not super precise, of course, but I don't want to be going back and forth trying to fill this up with a fine tip. I save the fine tip for details. And boy, I wonder if I've reached one of these other points where I should start talking about something else rather than go on and on trying to come up with things to say about my markering technique. I'll say a little bit about Taiwan. I don't think I've talked too much about that. When I finished college, my first job was teaching English with the YMCA in Taiwan, 1988 to 1990. Had a wonderful time. And sometimes I feel bad that, on this channel I'm talking a lot about Japanese culture. Of course, it's natural that the manga comes from Japan, the manga style. And then also my wife is Japanese, and, I lived in Japan for more than 2 years. But Taiwan was also very important to me. I mean, I had a marvelous time in Taiwan, and I sometimes wish that I had more occasion to talk about it on this channel. If you ever get the chance to go to Taiwan, I think you should grab that chance and get over there. It's a beautiful place. The food is fantastic, but the people are so wonderful. And if any of you watching this video are Taiwanese, I'm sure you will agree with me. Yes, he's right. We are wonderful. Probably never anywhere on earth have I met such friendly, kind, pleasant to be around people as I did in Taiwan. So I could say a little bit about what I was doing there. As I said, I taught English with the YMCA. It was kind of funny because there was no preparatory course that taught me how to be a teacher. I think they allowed me to watch someone else's class, basically. One of the other teachers, one of the other American teachers, sit in on one of their classes, one or two, and then boom, here you go, teach. So this was me at the age of like 21 or 22. I had just finished college, and suddenly I'm in a classroom trying to be a teacher. It was an interesting experience. I grew up fast, let me tell you, with those eyes staring at me, waiting to be taught. Had a lot of fun there. My favorite classes actually eventually were teaching preschool kids and devising lessons for them. I think with the grown-ups, it quickly became very dry and boring as people tell you what they did over the weekend or whatever. And kids are always just so much fun, and they enjoy, singing songs and everything. And that was true in Japan as well, I think. I don't know, different people in terms of teaching enjoy different age groups in terms of who's more fun to teach. I always thought teaching the little kids was the most fun. Okay, we're done with that. Let me move on. I'm going to pull out a shade of brown for his hair. But yeah, I did a little bit of traveling around Taiwan. I used to sometimes just, get on a train and go on a trip by myself all the way to the other side of the island. And you'd meet people as you went along. Like I said, the Taiwanese people are so friendly. I was making friends basically anywhere I went. And this may have changed, actually, since the late 80s, this sense, at that time, to see a foreigner in Taiwan, I don't want to say it was, like, rare. It was people who lived in the big cities saw foreigners all the time. But if you got off into the smaller villages, you might well encounter people who had never seen a foreigner before, and you felt like kind of a big deal, almost just walking down the street. People like, hey, there's an American in town, And I think for some American teachers that drove them crazy a little bit, because people would always be coming up and saying hello, and trying to talk to you, or maybe practice their English or whatever. And they'd say, oh man, I'm so tired of people bothering me or whatever. I loved it. It was so easy to just make friends because everyone was always running up to you. And now here's a part where I'm switching to the fine tip because I came into an area that requires a little more precision. So basically you can see how much I tend to just use the wide tip until I get to a location in the drawing like this. And let's see, what should I do next? How about a little bit of gray on the sword? I think I will actually use the smaller tip on this one. I haven't been announcing. This is the touch system. This one was the Pantone. This is another touch. This is like a grab bag of different markers that I have collected over the years. My experience is that you don't have to have all of your markers be by one company. I'm coming in with a slightly different shade of gray here. I thought I'd just sort of darken it up, make it maybe more of like a bluish color. But I know that a lot of people do love the Copics, expensive though they may be. I see sometimes people with their photographs of their Copic collection, and they're like, whoa, that is like $400 worth of markers right there. So hats off to you if you can afford to get that many markers. I personally don't want to blow that much money on them. I guess I'll use this same sort of brownish shade for getting a little bit of color in on the... I guess these are windows. I was thinking, does it make sense that these windows are so geometric? They look like they're from the modern world. He looks like he's from, the days of Robin Hood. And it may be, maybe it's a time travel story. That's what this illustration. Time travel. Robin Hood in the 21st century. He steals from the super rich and he gives to the poor. In any case, I think that we're coming up to the stage where I want to be adding shading. Like I said, the sort of secondary layer, and it's interesting to see as this blue dried, it definitely did a pretty good job of staying dark here, staying light up there. Don't know about that technique that I used for coloring in there. That's not looking so great, so my apologies, folks. As I said, my markering is not my forte. I really should practice more. But yeah, let's get into adding a secondary bit of shading. I know his skin needs it for sure. So I'm going to go in here. This is a very old Pantone Tria, and it is going to produce a darker shade. I guess I've decided that we got a light source coming from the upper left. Hope that's consistent in this drawing. So I'm going to come across here and start adding shading on the lower right of all these various skin areas. I feel like maybe this whole area back here might get quite a lot of shade, like his own body might cast some shade onto it. Now, some of you may be looking at this and saying, boy, this coloring doesn't look all that great. How is this drawing going to turn out with this level of coloring? Well, this is, as I said, part 3 of a 4-part. In the 4th part of this series, I am going to be coming in with colored pencils and different things to try to improve the quality of this coloring. And so hopefully by the end of the 4th video, this will look a little better. I think I am going to turn to, I'm going to turn to this sort of warmish gray marker to add, and I'm trying to push down kind of lightly to add some shading, because I don't happen to have a marker that would correspond with this light blue. So I'm going to try to kind of fudge it here by using a gray as my method of getting a little more shading. But you can see it makes a big difference when you, instead of just using one marker for an area, if you can get in with a second marker, which becomes your kind of shading marker, immediately everything starts to get a little more 3D. Actually, I'm finding that I'm producing a little bit of texture, because this marker is a little bit dry, and it's not bad for creating a certain sense of texture in his on his shirt. So yeah, I feel like I started that topic on Taiwan. I never did finish it really. I went to Taiwan 2 times. I was there in 1988 to 1990. Then I went back and was there from 93 to 94. And that was when my sort of traveling years drew to a close. I came back to America and tried to, get work as a writer and illustrator. It took a while, but it finally worked out for me. And let's see, I think what I'll do is I will try to darken in, well, let's see if this works for the cape. Darken in this area down here that I figured not very much light would get into. Yeah, that's working pretty well, actually. Sometimes you'll find that this is a kind of a warm gray, but it blends right in with that ochre, so it almost looks like a second dose of the original color. I wonder if I can use this actually in various areas. Let's give it a try. Hey, you never know until you try, Crilly. Why not? Adding in just a little darkness here. Again, trying to keep in mind that light source. Upper left. Oh, I guess the hilt of the sword could benefit from a bit of this. Let's check the time here. 19 minutes. Not too bad, not too bad. I think this one actually, in terms of, compared to last time, when I did a no time-lapse challenge. I feel like this one is going a little more smoothly for me. I guess I'd have to go back and look and see how much time, how long those individual videos were, but somehow the breaking up of the different stages has worked out fairly even. Pencils, inks, markering, and then, as I said, next week, the sort of final touches. I think one last thing that I'm going to try to do is go back in one more time to the jeans area. Is he wearing blue jeans? Is this a Robin Hood in blue jeans? Maybe that's the title of our feature film. I'm going to go back in that time, and this time really just using that exact same marker to try to build things up. You can see that I'm using, I'm not just coloring here, I'm kind of adding a sense of the wrinkles by way of the marker. And probably next week I will work into that yet more with the colored pencil, which will give me even more precision for that kind of stuff. But as I started to say, let's go back into the drawing or coloring in the pants here one more time to really try to get a full range of light to dark. Actually, the light is not all that light. As I said, this is a fairly dark marker, but I thought if I came back in here one more time, I could really beef up the shading on this side of the leg and get a better sense of three-dimensionality. Haven't used that word for a while, right? Three-dimensionality. Indicate and three-dimensionality. Those used to be my pet phrases that I used in pretty much every video. And what do you know? I feel like we have kind of come yet again to the end of one of these no time-lapse videos. It doesn't look too bad to me right now, but I do think it can be improved by way of added detailing next week. And I'm very grateful to any of you who have stuck with me thus far. I know it's a lot to ask to have people watch the same illustration be worked on week after week. I greatly appreciate those of you who have stuck with this project. We got one more to go, and then I promise we'll be done, and I'll get back to more of my sort of standalone videos that don't require you to keep coming back week after week. But for now, let me go ahead and lay down this marker. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.